Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
Have you ever looked at someone you love and suddenly realized you don't know them at all? That's what happened to me 3 weeks ago when I found something I wasn't supposed to see. Something that changed everything. My name is Brian. I'm 32, work in digital marketing, and until recently I thought I had it all figured out. Great job, amazing apartment, and Tamara, my girlfriend of 4 years who I was planning to propose to next month. But you know what they say about plans. I was setting up our new smart home system when a notification popped up on my phone. Someone had tried accessing our shared cloud storage with an unrecognized device. Not just any device, one that had repeatedly attempted login from a location across town at 2 a.m., the same time Tamara claimed she was working late at her publishing job. The thing is, her publishing house closes at 7, and that was just the beginning of the rabbit hole. Look, I'm not the suspicious type. I've always been the guy who rolls with the punches. My buddy Jake calls me Chill Bill because nothing gets under my skin. Even when the barista writes Ryan on my cup for the 5th time in a row, I just laugh it off. That's me. Easygoing Brian. But something about this felt off. Really off. So I did what any rational person would do. I checked our shared photo album like a normal person. Not to snoop, just to see if there were any clues about her late nights. That's when I noticed something bizarre. Dozens of photos I'd never seen before, uploaded from her phone at those exact same late hours. Pictures of empty buildings, old factories, abandoned places, all taken in the dead of night. And in every single one, if you looked closely at the shadows, there was a symbol, the same symbol, drawn in what looked like chalk. I zoomed in on one photo and almost dropped my phone. In the corner, barely visible, was a tiny note. B is getting suspicious. Proceed with phase 2. B, that's me, I'm B. Now I had 2 choices. Confront Tamara or dig deeper. But confronting her meant showing my hand too early. So I made my first risky move. I decided to follow her. Remember how I said I was easygoing? Well, stalking your girlfriend through the city at midnight is definitely not easygoing behavior. But there I was, wearing all black like some low-budget spy movie character, trailing 6 cars behind her as she drove to the industrial district. The whole time I kept thinking, this is crazy. She's probably just working on some surprise for our anniversary. But our anniversary was months away, and surprises don't usually require burner phones, which I'd found hidden in her gym bag that morning. The funny thing about following someone is how ridiculous you feel. There I was, hiding behind dumpsters, diving into bushes whenever she looked back. At one point, I actually hid behind a street performer dressed as a statue. The guy broke character just to whisper, "Relationship problems, huh?" I nearly had a heart attack. But the real shock came when I saw where she went. Not to some secret lover's apartment, not to a competitor's publishing house. She went to my boss's house. That's right, Martin Reeves. The same guy who had been randomly giving me high-profile clients for the past year. The same guy who had fast-tracked my promotion last quarter. I watched from across the street as Tamara entered his house without even knocking, like she'd been there 100 times before. And that's when the pieces started clicking into place. All those surprise accounts I'd been assigned, all that praise from upper management, the mysterious performance bonuses. None of it was because of my talent. It was Tamara. She was... what? Bribing my boss? Blackmailing him? But why? I needed answers, so I made my second risky move. I snuck closer to Martin's house and managed to position myself beneath an open window. Their voices drifted out crystal clear. "He still doesn't suspect anything?" Martin asked. "Not a thing," Tamara replied. "Brian's always been amusingly oblivious. It's one of his most useful qualities." Useful. That's the word she used. Like I was a tool, some pawn in whatever game they were playing. "The board is getting impatient," Martin said. "We need his signature on those contracts by the end of the month." Tamara laughed. Not her usual laugh, but something colder. "Trust me, he'll sign. I've made sure of it. Contracts? Board? What were they talking about?" I shifted to get a better angle and accidentally knocked over a garden gnome. The ceramic shattered, and before I could run, the porch light flicked on. I ducked behind a bush, heart pounding in my ears, but they didn't come outside. Instead, Tamara's voice drifted through the window, sounding annoyed. "Just the neighbor's cat again. Now, about those documents from Singapore." "Singapore?" My company didn't have any clients in Singapore. at least none that I knew of. I needed to get out of there, but as I backed away, my phone buzzed loudly. A text from an unknown number. Curious cats often find themselves in trouble, Brian. Go home. They knew I was there. They'd known all along. I ran like I've never run before. 6 blocks in leather shoes before I even thought about calling a rideshare. By the time I got home, I was sweating through my spy outfit, and my mind was spinning with questions. But our apartment wasn't empty when I arrived. My brother Kevin was sprawled on our couch, eating my leftover Thai food and watching reality TV at full volume. Kevin, who was supposed to be in Seattle for a job interview. Kevin, who always showed up unannounced whenever his life fell apart. "Bro!" he shouted, mouth full of pad thai. "You will not believe the week I've had." I didn't have time for Kevin's drama, not with the bombshell I'd just discovered. But then he said something that made me freeze. "So I'm at this weird networking thing in Seattle, right? And this woman comes up to me thinking I'm you. Started talking about some Project Phoenix and how everything was proceeding according to schedule. She showed me your picture and everything. Has your girlfriend got a twin or something? Because this chick looked exactly like Tamara. Project Phoenix. Tamara in Seattle when she told me she was visiting her parents in Chicago. Everything proceeding according to schedule. I played it cool with Kevin, made up some excuse about a work project with confidentiality agreements. But inside, I was reeling. This wasn't just about my career anymore. This was bigger, much bigger. That night, I made my third risky move. While Tamara slept, I used her fingerprint to unlock her personal laptop. Not my proudest moment, I know, but desperate times and all that. What I found was, well, nothing. Nothing suspicious anyway. Normal emails, normal search history, normal everything. Too normal, like everything had been sanitized. But then I noticed something odd about the laptop itself. It seemed thicker than it should be. I turned it over and examined the casing more carefully. There was a nearly invisible seam along the bottom. After some careful prying, a hidden compartment popped open. Inside was a small black notebook. The notebook was filled with codes, names, and dates, detailed profiles of everyone at my company, personal information no one should have access to, their weaknesses, pressure points, secrets, and next to my name, 2 words that chilled me to the core. Primary asset. I was an asset. In whatever game Tamara was playing, I wasn't her boyfriend. I was a resource to be used. But the real gut punch came on the last page. A complete dossier on me. Everything from my childhood allergies to my internet search history. Notes on how to manipulate me. Which arguments would make me back down. What gifts would make me forgive her after a fight. And at the bottom, in red ink, operation complete in 39 days. Extraction protocol to follow. 39 days. That was the day after our vacation to the Bahamas, the trip where I was planning to propose. Funny how life works, isn't it? I was planning a proposal. She was planning an extraction. I carefully put everything back exactly as I found it. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do next. But one thing was clear. I couldn't let Tamara know that I knew. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I pretended everything was normal. Have you ever tried acting natural when your entire world has just been shattered? It's like trying to casually hold a conversation while your pants are on fire. Every smile felt like it might crack my face. Every kiss felt like a betrayal, though I wasn't sure anymore who was betraying whom. At work, I started noticing things. The way certain colleagues would fall silent when I approached. How Martin would watch me from his office, phone pressed to his ear. The same marketing materials coming across my desk multiple times with tiny, almost imperceptible changes each time. One of our biggest clients, a company called Immunity Health, suddenly wanted me to personally oversee their account. The same company that had just announced a revolutionary new health monitoring system that would be installed in homes across the country. I started connecting dots that had been there all along. The random clients I'd been assigned all shared a common thread. They were all companies developing smart technology for homes, cars, phones. Technology that could track people, gather data, listen in. And my role? I was designing the marketing campaigns that would make people trust these products enough to invite them into their most private spaces. I wasn't just an asset, I was complicit. It was time for my 4th and most dangerous move. I needed to find out who Tamara really was and what Project Phoenix actually meant. And I knew just how to do it. Remember that smart home system I mentioned setting up? The one that triggered this whole nightmare? Well, it comes with some features the average user doesn't know about. Features I enabled specifically for my girlfriend's laptop. Two can play at this game, right? For the next week, I monitored everything. Every email, every message, every file transfer. Most of it was encrypted, but occasionally something would come through in plain text. References to the network, phase completion, asset management, and then came the bombshell, an unencrypted calendar invitation for a video conference. Subject line, Phoenix final briefing. The meeting was scheduled for 3 a.m. I made sure to be asleep when Tamara slipped out of bed and locked herself in our guest room. But thanks to my modifications to our smart home system, I could see and hear everything happening on her computer. 5 faces appeared on her screen, professional-looking people with stern expressions. One of them was Martin. Another was the CEO of Immunity Health. And at the center, a woman I recognized from governmental cybersecurity conferences. Agent Kelly, the woman addressed Tamara. Your final report? Agent, Tamara wasn't Tamara at all. Target has been successfully positioned, Tamara, or Agent Kelly, replied. All 5 companies have integrated our monitoring protocols into their systems. Once Brian approves the final marketing campaign next week, deployment begins. The woman nodded. And the extraction? Scheduled as planned. Brian suspects nothing. He's actually planning to propose during our vacation. They all laughed at that. Laughed. 4 years of my life. 4 years of loving someone who didn't even exist. And what about the brother? Asked Martin. He made contact with you in Seattle. A coincidence, Tamara replied. He's been handled. Memory modification protocol was successful. He believes he was at a job interview that didn't go well. Memory modification? They did something to Kevin? My annoying, harmless brother who eats all my leftovers. That was the moment something snapped inside me. This wasn't just about me anymore. They had messed with my family. I waited until the meeting ended and Tamara returned to bed. Then I executed my final move, a move so risky it could have gotten me killed or worse. I sent a single message from my phone to hers. Project Phoenix compromised, asset knows, abort. Then I pretended to sleep and waited for the chaos to unfold. It didn't take long. Her phone buzzed. She jolted awake, read the message, and practically flew out of bed. I watched through barely open eyes as she frantically packed a bag, made calls in hushed, urgent tones, and erased every trace of herself from our apartment. Within 20 minutes, she was gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. But what she didn't know was that I'd prepared for this moment. While monitoring her communications, I discovered something crucial. She wasn't working for the bad guys. In fact, there were no bad guys in the traditional sense. Tamara, Agent Kelly, worked for a classified government task force investigating potential security breaches in smart technology. Project Phoenix was an operation to identify and neutralize companies that were building backdoors into their systems, backdoors that foreign entities could exploit. My marketing campaigns weren't helping these companies spy on people. They were helping introduce subtly modified products that would actually protect consumers from the original compromised versions. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was an unwitting hero. But Tamara had one fatal flaw in her perfect operation. She fell in love with her asset. Those manipulation tactics in her notebook, they weren't working anymore because her feelings had become real. The extraction protocol wasn't to eliminate me. It was to remove herself from my life before she compromised the entire operation. How do I know this? Because she left me a message. Not a text or an email, something much more personal. Remember those photos of abandoned buildings with strange symbols? When put together, they formed a map. A map that led me to a storage locker containing a video message explaining everything. A message only someone who truly knew her, truly loved her, would ever find. Brian, she said in the video, her real voice coming through for the first time. No more fake accent, no more practiced laugh. If you're watching this, it means you figured it out. It means I underestimated you, which is the one mistake I promised myself I wouldn't make. She explained everything. The operation, the companies, the real threat. How she'd been assigned to use me but ended up caring for me. How the mission had become compromised because she couldn't bear to complete the extraction. I've left you all the evidence, she continued. What you do with it is your choice. But know this. What we had wasn't all a lie. Some of it, the best parts of it, were real. So here I am, 3 weeks later, still processing everything. The government officials who debriefed me say I helped prevent a massive security breach that could have affected millions of people. They've offered me a job, ironically enough, in their cybersecurity division. Kevin's memories have been restored. Turns out they just gave him something that made him think his interview went badly. He's actually moving to Seattle next month for his new job. As for Tamara, or whatever her real name is, I haven't heard from her again. The officials won't tell me anything about her whereabouts or her real identity. For all official purposes, Tamara Kelly never existed. But sometimes, when I walk past certain abandoned buildings in the industrial district, I notice fresh chalk marks in the shadows. Symbols that weren't there the day before. A message only I would understand. So that's my story. How I discovered my partner's dark secret and ended up inadvertently saving national security. How I fell in love with someone who didn't exist and somehow don't regret a single moment of it. People ask me if I'm angry, if I feel betrayed. Of course I do, sometimes. 4 years is a long time to live a lie. But I also understand why she did what she did. The greater good and all that. Besides, I have a secret of my own now. Those symbols she's been leaving, I've been working on deciphering them. And I know, they're coordinates, dates and times for a potential meeting. Next week, I'm taking that vacation to the Bahamas anyway, alone, officially. I've got the ring in my pocket still. After all, some lies are told to protect the people we love. And some truths are worth waiting for, no matter how complicated they might be. Oh, and if you're wondering how I know all this, let's just say Agent Kelly isn't the only one who knows how to keep a secret. Project Phoenix may be complete, but Project Rebirth? That's just getting started.